Good morning, Eagles. So we're a little over a month into the 2020-2021 school year. You're probably getting ready to do a test of some sort, and you're wondering, what the heck does that even look like when you've got 23 kids at home and you're in your classroom with the other 4? Hybrid learning can pose some real challenges to our assessment system, but with some flexibility and some ingenuity, we can tackle this problem and maybe even come out of this with tests that we love. The first thing to consider in crafting hybrid learning-friendly assessments is to revisit your learning targets. Did you pare these down with your content teams? Consider using these to streamline assessments then to just hit those learning targets and not a million other things, especially this year. We're all overwhelmed, both teachers and kids. So give yourself permission to not assess everything you teach and to change the way you assess to make it more manageable for both you and your students. The second thing to consider is changing the nature of your assessments. Traditional multiple choice tests can pose security issues, and longer essay questions can be incredibly time-consuming to grade, especially when they're all digital. You can consider giving more frequent, smaller tests. This makes assessment less overwhelming for you and your students. This might also be the time to consider doing oral assessments, maybe one-on-one or in small groups. You could also have students film themselves with Flipgrid explaining how something works, their thought process behind how they solved a problem, or their take on something that they've read. Other platforms also will give your students a chance to explain their reasoning. Consider Pear Deck or GoFormative, both of which will collect data for you in a variety of ways. Just be cognizant of your students' familiarity with the tool that you use. Teachers have integrated a lot of new tech into the way they teach, which means students are also juggling a bunch of different platforms, some of which can be tricky for them to navigate. Make sure that your students are familiar with whatever it is you are using before you use it to assess them. A third point to consider is test security. We need to acknowledge that there's no foolproof solution to cheating, but even when our kids were face-to-face, cheating happened. We had ways to minimize it then, and we have ways to minimize it now. You could tackle the academic dishonesty issue by using testing methods that lock down student access to outside resources. Mastery Manager offers a secure browser, preventing students from opening other websites unless you load them into the exam ahead of time. Google Forms will also allow you to give assessments in locked mode, which locks down all other tabs. Both Mastery Manager and a locked quiz on Google Forms must be completed on a school-issued Chromebook. Another way to minimize cheating is by setting time limits for exams. By imposing a time limit, kids will not be able to use a second device to Google all of the answers before their time runs out. You can turn off a form's ability to accept responses after your class, or if you're posting to Google Classroom, you can set a due date and time so you will be notified if a student hands in a quiz after that time limit. Assessments this year can pose a challenge, but in that challenge, we can also find an opportunity for growth. Don't be afraid to try something new. If there was ever a year to take a risk, it's this one. This could also be a great time to collaborate with your content team to explore and reimagine what your assessments could look like. There's so many possibilities, and we know that the teachers here are brilliant, innovative, thoughtful, and hardworking, and you'll meet this challenge head on. We can't wait to see the amazing things that you do, and we'd love to collaborate with you if you have ideas that you need to figure out how to implement. Until next time, Eagles, we'll see you in the tea room.